Today I'm gonna guide you a little bit through some of the trends that we've been seeing within the Netherlands with our partners, with you guys, but also with some of the things that we've heard, we've seen, and try to relate everything. I'll try to keep it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions, feel free to just barge in. That's totally fine. I'm looking forward, and hopefully you won't hear too many new things, but maybe you can connect some dots that will actually show you like, hey, yeah, we're on a good track. And that would be the best purpose of today. All right. So first of all, for those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Tim Reus. I've been working for Xomnia for the last 6 years. Doing a lot of different things over these course. So I've created a small timeline going for big pharma companies to ABN AMRO Verzekeringen, some of you are here, and Nexus was the most recent one. And there was always this really nice connection with data platforms, with data use, and how to move forward. Myself, I live in Amsterdam. If I'm not working, I'm usually in the Boulder Hall, climbing my fingers off usually. And if that's not the case, I have a lot of random facts that need to get out during a pop quiz. So who knows, there might be a quiz in this presentation. No, don't worry, it is not. So I'm gonna guide you through what the new trends, or actually the latest trends were during 2024 on the data platform related. But before we move in, a small summary of what we're gonna discuss. Code or not to code is the first subject. Then we'll move into a little bit more of the maybe not so sexy but quite important cost management. A little bit about cloud providers. Sorry, Ben, we need to discuss your competitors as well. Data lakehouse architecture, observability, quality, and security, and then some predictions for 2025. While digging in through my brains and also looking back at some of the discussions I've had over the year, I also came across a trend report made by O'Reilly. I hope all of you know it, right? It's a quite interesting one because they highlight a little bit more what is the new skill level, the new knowledge that people are trying to look at. And if they just released it a couple of weeks ago, and if we look. A lot of the things that you just mentioned are really coming back, right? So prompt engineering, of course, has a huge increase. There's no doubt about it, also because before then it was not as highly demanded as so, but and GitHub Copilot as well. Interestingly enough, though, the GPT content was actually down from last year. Does anyone have a suggestion why that would be the case?
ChatGPT.com changed to chat.com.
Sorry?
The URL of ChatGPT.com changed to chat.com.
Exactly, yeah. So it's a bit of a strange one in there. What I also really thought was interesting, also that some of the coding skills went down, right, for Python and Java. I have my explanation for this, where I think a lot of the people are using now Gen AI to start learning how to code and actually improve their coding skills, right? However, for Rust, it went up. That was also quite interesting for me. But the most interesting fact was that the increase in the data engineering skills, especially when we talk about a lot of the things that were going on. It's a lot about data science, about Gen AI, by the advanced analytics, but it's mostly about data engineering skills that went up a lot of the time. For me, that shows that we're going back to making sure that our fundamentals are in order before we move on to the next step. So that's also what we've experienced. Within Xomnia, we've experienced a high demand for data engineers. Fortunately, we had quite a few good ones and we really enjoyed. But at some point, it's also, can we keep up with the request for data engineering, or do we need to do things smarter? Because, yeah, they don't just pop out of the thin air, right? So that's an interesting fact to keep in mind. And that's also something that we see coming back when I look at the trends for this year. But for me, the trend that ruled 2024 was really Gen AI in its biggest form, right? So it's, and then I'm not talking about, we're introducing Gen AI, but more Gen AI as a something that influences the work that we do on our platforms. So the first thing that I want to highlight with you guys is should you code or not to code, basically. I just mentioned that, right? A lot of the people are now using Gen AI to learn how to code, which is great, of course. But if you look back, that's also quite a challenging thing. So I'm going to take you back a little bit further. In a little while ago, in 2012, the Harvard Business Review actually announced that data science was the sexiest job of the 21st century. Many new statements came out after this. If you ask me, at the moment, it's really about the data engineer being the sexiest job of the 21st century. Maybe not the sexiest, but the most required version. And there it went. And exactly for the reason that I just mentioned, right? We need to get our fundamentals in order before you can do the more advanced stuff. We can also see this when we look at what are these skills that you actually need. And if we talk about the O'Reilly report, they're really into the fundamentals. How do you write a data pipeline? What's a data mesh? Well, that might not be a fundamental, but really important stuff to know. And without this proper fundament, it's so difficult to get the right insights out. And probably all of you know this, like, yeah, that's a given. But how do you do that, right? So that's quite a challenging one. One other aspect that I've noticed because of Gen AI, but also other this need for this higher need for data engineering, is that we're going towards a season where people are more inclined to use low-code or no-code options. And that's something that quite a few of the big vendors are now also really pushing towards. Within Azure ML, for instance, they have like a lot of the ML stuff that is no-code or at least low-code. And Dataiku is, of course, still a market leader when it comes down to creating data platform or an analytics platform without using much code. There's some. AWS is now highly increasing their investments on low-code initiatives, but also IBM, Oracle, and Google are all doing the same. So it's becoming more of a crowded space for that specific low-code, and that's usually a factor that this is becoming more and more a thing. And when you think about it, if less people know how to code, and there's a high demand for data engineers, this is a logical next step. But then again, Copilot and Gen AI solutions are making it easier to code. Or is it? What would you guys think? Does it make it easier? Does it make it more difficult? Is it reliable? I see some nodding. I see some, yeah.
Two-edged sword. So maybe starting off is going to be easier because a few of the more simple things you find, okay, I can learn it this way, but there's a difference between putting down a few lines or really understanding what you're doing.
Yes.
So that's exactly where
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say they can be an accelerator for people already understanding that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's a good start, but you're not mastering it, right? So then that means we need to go back to coding, or at least find a different way of coding. And one big contender or a thing that has been coming to as a new kid on the block has been Polars this year. Like the number of downloads and stars on GitHub has been going through the roof, and mostly because it's not necessarily easier, but it's a lot faster and cheaper. Actually, for example, Deutsche Bahn, who is using Polars at the moment, they've been able to reduce their data processing from 96 minutes to 5. But with that, they are able to reduce their cost by 25% on the cloud. Now, that's going to make a nice use case, of course. Doesn't necessarily mean that this works for everyone. Like you need to have the right level of the amount of data, the speed, of course, but mostly also people that are willing to invest in learning how to do Polars. Some other names are mentioned there as well. So Netflix is using this, Optiver. But also within the energy grid here in the Netherlands, it's quite often used. I know Alliander and Enexis are both using it. I know at Rabobank they're currently using it, so it's becoming more and more a thing. Is anyone here, well, besides the people that I might have mentioned already, using Polars at the moment? Is it integrated? Yeah, free tip, might look into it. But yeah, so it's mostly to get your cloud cost down, right? And when we talk about cost, we need to talk about cost management. And like I said, it's not the most sexiest of topics, but quite important. Especially nowadays with the current economic pressure that we put on data initiatives. A lot of the data initiatives are still failing because the cost is not under control. And what we've seen at Xomnia is that some of the things that are really nice way of getting this under control is to enable smart guardrails, right? So really think about, okay, to what extent are we allowing our costs to grow? How are we monitoring this and how to move forward? Another thing is, of course, having storage steering strategies. A little more dangerous potentially is the pay-as-you-go optimization. But another thing that is quite interesting here is to reevaluate your cloud strategy. And this is leading me straight into my next trend, and that is the one of cloud providers. Yeah, so within our customer base, we've looked into what are the clouds that are being used, how are they using it, and there we've actually seen that the majority of our clients are currently using Azure, but not just Azure. It's always in the multi/hybrid cloud strategy is really something that is popping up and is becoming more and more important. Also, not easy to perform well. Another reason why, for instance, AWS, but also Azure are now getting into services such as Azure Arc to make this a lot more easy to do this multi-cloud strategy. But the main reason of doing this is actually twofold. The first reason is flexibility and cost optimization, right? So if we look at, for instance, Google has a very cheap storage, so to say. So that's why it's often used as a secondary cloud provider. But the second reason is the OpenAI function within Azure, causing a lot of people that are companies that are currently using AWS also to get an Azure cloud tenant in. Quite interesting, but also something that we see coming back in our clients, but also if you look from a broader perspective. So for instance, Gartner has released what they always release, right? Their Magic Quadrant, and this is definitely something we see coming back. So Azure is quite high, AWS, Google, they're all out there, Dataiku, and of course Databricks, who's, I think nowadays a lot of companies are using either Databricks or Snowflake. Which actually leads to our next session, which is the data lakehouse architecture. Anyone never heard of this topic before, so far? Yeah, back in there, but that's not someone there. All right.
Another question about the cloud providers.
Yeah.
With Trump coming up and with Elon Musk maybe reducing legislation,
Mm-hmm.
do you see a trend, European companies who don't want their data maybe outside the EU? Do you see upcoming there is an initiative from the EU about an European cloud provider? Do you see that as a realistic competitor to this?
To be fair, also today it was in the news, right, where it was mentioned that the Rijks, so the governmental agency, went too fast into using public cloud. I think there are two things to this. I think if you are realistic in your risk assessment, you also know that this is always a factor, even if it's a German company or if you go somewhere else, German because of Lidl, of course. But so far, we've not seen really this movement coming in yet, where people are hesitant or companies are hesitant to move away from the public cloud. Is Trump going to be an effect on this? Who knows? Yeah, you never know with Trump, right? But I think we're quite safe. And this is also, I think, most of the cloud providers are now storing, for instance, right here in West Europe. I think the bigger challenge is going to be, are the cloud providers able to keep servicing us on those regions where we want it to be? I mean, Northwest Europe has already been struggling for a bit just because most of the companies want to store their data there. So we need to be more flexible in that sense. I think that's going to be a more important issue for us than really any issue with Trump or the US government. Does that answer your question? Great. Yeah, so data lakehouse architecture, right? It's nowadays, it's really the new standard. I don't think I can mention it any way else. If we look at all the companies that are just starting with their data and a maturity journey, most of them either go for Databricks, Snowflake, and 90% is now using or starting to use the medallion layer. Why? It gives you a lot of options, right, when it comes down to handling your granularity, your quality, your transformation steps, but also makes it a lot easier when you have a data mesh setup. And it's also something that from Xomnia perspective, we really think this is the way to go when you set up your data platform. It's maintainable and it's just a lot stronger. Plus, it can be quite cheaper than when you go for the previous option of just having a data lake or a data warehouse in that sense. But how do you choose between Snowflake or Databricks, right? This is a question I get quite often, and it's quite interesting to see that for the companies that we have, that Snowflake is often used in the public sector, the utilities and so on. And why? Mostly because their focus has been still on BI and analysis purposes. Whereas if you look at our retail, finance, and manufacturing clients, they've been really focused on embedding Databricks, potentially because they're a little bit more into the advanced analytics workload. But I think it's also because of the type of data that they have, which is a lot more unstructured in that sense. I think in the main, whatever decision you make, a good thing to keep in mind here is something an overkill, yes or no? For a lot of companies, Databricks is an overkill. So Snowflake is a very good contender in that sense. But if you really are going to that advanced analytics a little bit further than just that, and you don't have the capabilities to really start from the nitty-gritty up, Databricks is a really good solution. Plus, they have Unity Catalog. Coming back to the governance side, I think that's a really strong feature that we've been overlooking for a long time, but which is now coming more and more into maturity. Allowing your metadata to be used in such a way that its observability and quality control is right there. It's really strong. And in such, that is a key importance. Your observability, your quality, and security. Now, when we bring that back to Gen AI, right, that's also something that Databricks has been working on. So right now, they just released their Lakehouse IQ, which is a Gen AI version where you can actually ask your Unity catalog, hey, how is my gross profit doing on September? Great, of course, but that still requires the setup to be correct and the environment to be done right. Data is useless unless it has business value, and analysts know how to find it. There's a friend of mine who once said this, and this kept on going in my mind the whole time through. And I think it's very, very true. One other great trend that we've seen on data governance was the use of great expectations. It's a really nice tool on really to easily manage and to keep control on, hey, how complete is my data set? Is it timely? Is the timeliness correct? But also, how's the quality doing? And one of the things that I'm seeing that this is becoming an industry-wide standard in the near future, where it's already being used a lot at the moment. But one other aspect that needs to be mentioned here is that all of this also comes with more security risk, right? Especially embedding Gen AI into your platforms and everything, especially for how do you deal with separating what you are allowed to see and what you're not allowed to see. So how do you deal with that type of information? Well, of course, multi-tenancy is there in very interesting spot. I don't know, is anyone currently in the midst of using multi-tenancy? Yeah, I know from Clément, of course, yeah, at NN. How's that working, Michael, so far?
So far, so good. Since we went live, we have 18 tenants on board, and it's going quite well.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really nice setup. Important there, I know you probably guys have done it, is also to keep your all that information within the multi-tenancy is great, but you also need to have that basic knowledge base, right? So you can't really put everything in the multi-tenancy. There needs to be like this common layer so things make sense still. But it's really an interesting way of how to deal with that. But besides that, there's of course a lot of unwanted behavior coming in, even for companies here in the Netherlands. I think the time where we can just keep our heads down and hope that it's okay and we won't get hacked is over. So in such, it's important to do our cybersecurity and our cloud security in order. And that's also something that we've been paying a lot of attention to, and where, well, you guys, our clients, are also paying a lot of attention to. It's not easy, but it can be quite interesting. And Gen AI can help with that, right? I think at BNG we had an issue in like a workshop at some point, and someone said, can we use Gen AI to spot where our vulnerabilities are? And there are actually some of these applications on the market today, which is quite interesting to have a look at. Yeah, so I'm fully running out of time. I'm already over time, so I'll do a quick recap. The effect of Gen AI is quite big, even though it might not be the biggest thing you see out there. But it creates a higher need for strong data foundation. It changes the way developers code, right? They are looking at things differently. But it's also a driver behind the multi-cloud setup. Through catalogs, it can also enable you for your data stewards to become more data literate, so they discover and research their own data a lot more easy. And potentially it could help with solving some security risks. Now, before we end the presentation from my side, anyone willing to take a guess on what is going to be the trend for next year? Yeah, so for me, my main prediction for the upcoming year, actually this year, is also that the way of working around data ops is going to be a lot more of a thing. And I also hope that it is a little bit in line with what Bas was saying. I hope I really hope that there's going to be a lot of a next big thing. All right, thanks everyone for joining me for this talk. I love to hear you.
Sound test. Can everyone hear me, especially at the end of the room? Yes. It's good. Fantastic. Thank you very much. And hey, everybody, I know I am in between of you and your food, and I don't want to be that, so don't hunt me. So I put my slides in an order of importance. So which means the most important slides will be most high level, more strategic, and also I think that have most of the dense messages. So please ask me questions. Don't think we will hit up the time, and whenever the time is up, we'll cut it out and go for our food. So, and don't feel that you are missing a lot, because the least important ones are in the end. I'm Ben. I started at Microsoft only 3 months ago. I have recently finished my onboarding just a week ago, so I'm qualified to give you this talk. Before coming to Microsoft, I was at Friesland Campina, a dear Dutch company, and I was Global Director of AI and Analytics, responsible for 8 different teams from AI, data science, machine learning, up to SAP BW and everything in between. And I worked in similar positions at Dutch and German companies before coming here, and I have a PhD from Max Planck Institute in AI. Good. outline of our talk, so that you know that today we're gonna talk a little bit about what Chief Data Officer role is, what Chief AI Officer or Analytics Officer role is. I'm not talking about the people, but the role. So of course, both can come together, like Chief Data and Analytics Officer whatsoever. And some prerequisites that I want you to get onboarded. And then we'll talk about how to get value from AI projects, because you all want to create POCs and proof of values and so on here and there, and MVPs. But where is the money? How you really follow the money, and how do you get the money for your AI projects, and how do you create money from your AI projects? Because we are not, I don't think any of us are working in academic institutions or charities. Most of us are working in companies. Of course, nowadays, if you don't talk about governance or responsible AI, your talk is not sexy. So I'll talk. And only if we have time, we can brainstorm a little bit about AI transformation. These two roles, I will not tell you which one is which one, but when you look at the keywords, saying like data management, governance, data integrity, data engineering, compliance, quality of data, access to the data, and this kind of people working with IT versus data monetization strategies, creating value from data, innovating via analytics and insights, data-driven decision-making, and working with business. Which one is a CDO role to you, and which one is a CAO role to you? CAO stands for Chief Analytics Officer, including AI. Second what?
I think the one on the right, the monetization strategy, that's the CAO role.
Ah, fantastic. I think everyone agrees. And it's really important to know that the first layer is more defensive, to protect your data, what you have it, and give the right access of data. The second one is more offensive, so less risk-oriented. So, more risk-oriented, and you don't care much about compliance. So it means like I'm offending. I would step on toes of IT policies and the people and whatever is in between me and money. So the good thing is that we have to bring these two together. And the moment in the organizations that we cannot bring these two together, unfortunately, either Chief Information Officer will step in, or Chief Technical Officer, or the board will step in, and one of these will be cut. AI can generate value, now we go to prerequisites, based on the digital maturity of your organization. So if you are, I usually say like ABC, or you can say 1 to 3 level of organizations when it comes to how decision making is being made, right? The first one is insights driven, where you look at the data and data gives you this business intelligence in short, and then these insights are driving your strategy. Okay, we have that much sales happening here based on that much marketing effort, and maybe that's how we should adjust our budget and spend whatsoever. The next level will be mostly automation of your business and cost reduction, and getting rid of the mundane tasks. And the last one is basically more an agentic way of thinking. Your business decisions are already done, and it goes forward. It can replicate itself. If I say there is also a level 0 before insights driven, what would it be?
Gut feeling.
Yes. Who said that? Fantastic, very good. And actually many organizations are still running on gut feeling. Good to know. Of course, going from left to right just doesn't happen easily. You also need some technology. If you want to be AI driven compared to business intelligence driven, you have to do some changes. In BI, you have data marts, right? And you have dashboards and visualizations running on data marts. But when it comes to AI driven, well, you have to have a good data platform and relevant technologies like vector databases and so on, or search engines. And then you have to have enough AI models working on different kind of data for different kind of tasks, as well as the application layer. That's why recently with the Gen AI revolution, we see that there is a decrease in data science. This is the main reason, but there is an increase in data engineering jobs. The reason is basically to set this up. If you cannot set this up, your data scientists will be stuck in the middle level. And none of you, most probably, will create your own large language model anymore, unless you work on big companies. Your data scientists will be stuck into only analytical AI, which is like predictive analytics, right? Recommendation engines, regressions, and classical traditional machine learning, which can help a lot, but that's it. And what I'm bringing in actually in very near future, in 1 or 2 years, even data engineering will change a little bit. It will evolve back to software engineering because most of the things will be already in the cloud. The models that you need are there, fine-tuned in the way that you want. All the AI models you need are there. All the database, different kind of platforms will be there. And what you have to do right now is always glue these things together in a software engineering mentality by making API calls. And you will not, also data scientists and data engineering has to evolve to this way. So if you ask me right now, if I am a chief data officer and I'm hiring new people for my data science team, I would definitely hire a couple of pure software engineers, hardcore software engineers that are willing to learn more about data. How to get value? Until now, any question? As I said, we are finishing the most important ones, going to the less important ones. Do we have any head of data here? Or head of AI? 3. Any chief information officers? Any top-level decision makers in their companies for data and AI projects? Another one. Excellent. Another one. How to get value from AI and analytics project. This is mostly about you, but it also includes a lot of engineers. So how many engineers or data scientists do we have here? Okay. And how many of you brought a POC to production? 4, 5, 6, nice. Okay. Can I ask you a question? How long does it take to create a POC based on your experience?
Depends, but I have to say I'm a director of product in data and AI, so I really find this interesting. I was curious why you put this not at the beginning of the entire talk, if it's ordered by importance. I'm assuming that value is really important and should be started with, but I personally always struggle to define value for AI and data products, and it's a big question. So how long does it take to take a POC? It depends on the quality of the data and the complexity of the POC.
Yes, but it's usually, right, we can say a couple of months to create a POC?
Sometimes less.
Sometimes even less, yes.
So it also depends on how you define a POC.
Yes.
A POC is only there to define feasibility. After that you have a prototype, which is different, and that's sort of a more complex undertaking, but the POC itself can be a couple of weeks.
Even a few sprints, right? And how about to bring let's say POC to prototype and finally in the production that a business user can use? Is it a quarter, 2 quarters, 8 quarters?
Depends on what you're trying to do.
Yes. Based on my experience, if you cannot bring a POC to production in 6 months, you will lose the traction. It can still work, right, if you're depending on the demand or on that one. But what I usually see in the organizations, and it is we are in January, right? We watch some Instagram reels or shredded guys or girls, and then we say that, yeah, I'll be fit as well. Huh? And then you buy your fitness subscription in a couple of weeks or at most in a month or 2, and you say that, shit, man, I think I have to cancel. This is what happens with lots of POCs or inspiring executive talks here and there. You go to a fantastic Gartner conference, all these executive talks happening. We have to do Gen AI. I love it. I have to do Gen AI. CFOs are going there. They come to their teams. Yeah, do Gen AI for me. It's the best thing and so on. It's the new snake oil. And then you see in a couple of months, it's all gone. Because it requires a systematic approach to convert this inspiration and motivation into production that creates value. And this has two parts, and I think that's why you really value this. First is how to select the winning projects, which means prioritization and focus based on your industry segment. And the last one is more about how to operationalize this. Couple of things that we'll talk quickly. I think most data professionals or even like product managers and so on, what they miss is you have to really define conceptually what are the winning elements of successful AI projects. Everyone involved in the project must understand it. Not technical level, but the purpose of the project. It has to be carefully scoped and widely supported. Means different kind of people should support this project. It's not like creating another data pipeline. It's not migrating from, let's say, on-prem to, let's say, cloud. AI projects are different because they are gluing business to the most technical thing. So that's why you need the investment of every single element in the chain. It must improve the operations of the company. It shouldn't be only for fun or intellectual pleasure. It must improve on some operations. Sometimes I get questions. Some executives were asking me, they said, okay, yeah, but we want to do AI. What shall I do now? Okay, we want to do AI. You got me. Where shall we start and so on? The answer is go back to your work, in your daily work, check your company and what is the most core operation in your company. The most core, the chain. Maybe it's usually a couple of operations coming together, but your value chain. And then once you have this thing, define your business pain or ambition around that compared to your competition and so on. And then we can discuss how we can apply AI to this. This is the way how you should proceed. And finally, you have to always make sure that the engineering teams or analytics teams doing these projects, they have enough air cover. So correct sponsorship in the executive level, correct product management in between, that they can focus and to deliver this. This is the success formula. And the value of AI projects, I think one of the things that engineering teams and product teams do wrong is that not to communicate frequent enough the value of the project that they are doing. And measuring is another thing that I will just tackle in the next slide. But the most important thing is to enable the organization to realize the value of AI for certain projects. When you talk about, let's say, I'm coming from a milk company, right? Frisan Campina. And for me, it's very important that we valorize the milk from raw to, let's say, cheese. And there's everything in between. This is one of our core value chain. And if I can improve this 1%, how does it transfer to money? And unfortunately, analytics teams, they don't think about this that much. The only thing they think is to deliver this thing, this dashboard, and this whatsoever AI model, that recommendation engine, that predictive analytics whatsoever. Then the success will be limited to really like whatever the end product that you are delivering to. However, you want the success to be scaled to the business. And very important is that what I see that the data teams are not incorporating the project management office and finance teams or treasury control or budget control whatsoever, portfolio management teams enough. When it comes to value framework, how do we, like all of you working in your in the companies in different kind of data projects or AI projects, how many of you worked with any kind of value framework? 1, 2, 5, 6 came. You also? 7. Yeah, okay. So 7 out of like 35, 40 people. This is very less. And we, again, I have to repeat it. We work in companies. So each of us working with any AI project must be within a value framework. In the beginning, you have to always think about the potential value that this could introduce in a most ideal world. Yes, please.
Don't you think it's a lot of it's bullshit? That when you say this project has 10 million euro unlock, I work in Unilever, we have so many projects. If you would audit it at the end of the year, the value unlock and ask, where's the money?
Yeah.
I can tell you, I mean, if all of those predictions were true, we would be, you know, swimming in money. Because a lot of those estimates, in my opinion, are bullshit. And that's something I really struggle with.
Yeah. Have you ever worked in Scrum teams or Agile frameworks before?
Yeah, of course.
Right. So there is this when there is a user story, right? When it's assigned to someone, there is always a complexity estimation of the task, either in T-shirt sizes or in the days, or there is Fibonacci method whatsoever, right? If you check, usually the agile teams, when they start working, these estimations are so wrong, right? They say, okay, this task requires 8, and then they finish it in 2, or they say it requires 8 and it takes 3 sprints, But it has always proven that if this mechanism is there, estimation, over the time, this, this fluctuations, thank you very much. These fluctuations are stabilizing and becoming more, stable, more correct estimations. I think this has to happen with the companies as well. But if you see, in the agile way, there is always a check mechanism. That's what you promised, estimated, it did not work. I think if this mechanism comes to corporates, that's why I said you have to involve PMO. If the PMO office is involved, or the treasury and control office is involved, and this mechanism will happen. And you always start with the potential, of course, in the ideal world and so on, but your KPIs should be one level more realistic, which I call it enabled. So once your product is in production, and once people, we said, okay, I wanted this to be for the entire sales units in my company, let's say Unilever, right? In 52 countries, but okay, we created this, but unfortunately, it will be only available for our European market. And then boom, 200 million value goes to 25 million. This is the enabled, great. But then you have to measure and track the realized value. In Friesland Campina, we really created something like this. We created a market prediction model that allows the sellers in France, to optimize their visits to sell our lattice coffee machines, lattice coffee milk machines. We have around 350,000 HoReCa entities in France, like hotels, restaurants, coffees that can use these machines. And we have around 30 sales experts there, sellers. Impossible to cover this all. What we did is a module that we put in Salesforce. In the morning, any sales expert, they can wake up and they check it. Okay, I want to visit this, that. Okay, fine. Oops. The model telling me, yeah, you can visit them, but this is an A quality, this is a B quality, this is a C quality, this is a D quality, based on the convergence or the quality that we can get from them. We said that, okay, 196 million is if we can do this thing all of our markets in the entire world. We only brought to France that we were expecting to make 10 million a year. That was the enabled value for them. And at the end of the year, we measured it was 3.5 million. We measured it because in Salesforce, whatever you go, it works, it ticks, That's it. This kind of measurement frameworks, if they come, and the success will be inevitable.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course, production is not easy because who wrote any kind of data science code here before? Who has written any kind of data science code before? 2, 3 in the back, 4 people. Okay. If you know AI projects, especially if it is on the code level, they are more research oriented. So it's an artisanal project. It's a process that's a little bit artistic. You would know it. So it's non-linear. So you do something, doesn't mean you will finish it immediately afterwards. So you have discoveries, you come back, you do something, you come back, you have learnings, you play with the parameters, less hallucinations, you play another parameter, okay, more hallucinations, okay, this doesn't work, that model is better than the other model, okay. So it's iterative, creative cycle, and testing and validation and so on. So it's quite a research-oriented and very artistic and very creative process if you think about it. But when you go to production, for all good reasons, they are very much scrutinized, right? They are very much regulated and compliant. They have to be linear. And you cannot just change things. There are periodic changes over the years, a couple of times at most, right? Routine, and plus they have to be up and running all the time. It's very mechanical. Now the challenge is how you go from this to there. That's why there is something called DevOps, or I think there was a picture. Please go ahead. There is a LLM ops, ML ops, DevOps, whatsoever mentality. The entire idea is basically to create the coding world to the production world. I think a certificate is great, but I think things should change here, and everyone should realize in the boards and executive level that we are on the verge of a revolution, a transformation. I have 10 minutes. But this transformation is not only about the technology, but it's about like how organizational units in enterprises are collaborating. Now AI is breaking the silos. Either you can just embrace this new way of working, or you will just keep.
I'm mentioning this because that's my biggest problem. Okay, you're from Microsoft, and basically all the technical part. This is something I can solve.
Did I sell you any product until now?
Okay, let's
yes, here. Yes.
My problem starts with adoption.
Yes.
How do I get this stuff adopted? How do I?
Yes, I have an answer. Use Copilot, and that will help you. I think an adoption itself is a big topic. If I would love to share my experiences maybe offline or in another talk, but I really agree adoption is a big topic, and I already published something about what are the things against Copilot adoption, but I can share this with you. You can generalize this thing to other AI tools. But a good thing around adoption is really to start small. Sometimes we are bombarding our business user with a full-fledged technology. And the good thing is that to really understand, empathetically listen and understand the business user's problems, and then come up with a tool that's solving a part of that problem that they can use, which we call it MVP mindset, right? You start small and then you iterate over it. I think here, the transformation opportunity, the shift that we have to do in our mindset, technology experts here or the data army here, we have to rethink in the business organizations that we work. And this rethink should be around 4 elements. What is the most pressing business problem? What's the most painful thing in this organization? And what's the biggest ambition in this organization? Think like a CEO or any relevant board members. My favorite is Chief Operation Officer or Chief Growth Officer. So the moment I think from their perspectives, I understand how I should position my AI projects. The second will be, how would you imagine an ideal solution of the problem in the end? Just feel free, go wild there, like the potential, and make the most BS estimation that you want, But there, don't limit yourself. And always put the people in the center, because we said, I will build this AI model that will be great, everyone use it. No one will use it. Start from the people. What will be the behavioral change I want from my business user? Don't think about which AI library are you going to use in your code. What is the behavioral change I want from my business user, and what is the atomic habit that they will do every day in their business day-to-day work life that demonstrate that behavior and the change in the business process. Yeah? So someone, I think again it was you or the other colleague, asked a question about, blah, 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 Gen AI, fantastic, but Indian people are using Excel. Yeah? So then you have to think the behavioral change that you want, and then do your AI project respectively. And of course, then the rest is more like straightforward, what flavors of AI and automation that we needed. Then you can think a little bit like about go from processes to projects, use cases, and products, and the technologies. Usually people make the mistake, yes, let's collect all the AI use cases together and think and do some initiatives. No. This is not how you will do the transformation. You have to start from people and processes first. the most core processes and the most important business users that they should change their behavior, and then you can collect use cases. Right now, everyone says that, yeah, Gen AI, most board members do some use cases and check if it is valuable, then we think about it. Unfortunately, this usually ends in quite a drama. Doesn't work like this. Yes, please.
Then when you're not necessarily collecting a lot of use cases at the same time, if you're saying you look at people and like their processes, and it would also actually be totally fine, right, to just get an MVP without full integration of this model that you're doing.
MVP is a full integration of a small scope. So full integration must be there, because without a full integration, you will not see the entire landscape. I think we have an expert here, a head of product. So really, when it should be minimum viable, it's solving at least one problem in the entire problem space of the business user, but this should be in production, which means you go end to end in the entire value chain. It's in production with the monitoring setup, security standards, and everything. And it has risk and compliance whatsoever. Is this what you're asking, or?
Yeah, maybe later offline I'll elaborate a little bit on that.
Yes. But the message here is that really to put the behavioral change and the core business processes there. And also whenever I talk about Copilot, people say, yeah, Copilot, 20, 30 euros per month is too much. Okay, if you're busy, this is the first time I'm selling something right now. And it's not about Copilot. Use another technology, it doesn't matter. But put your people in the center and your processes. What is the productivity or well-being problems that I'm having with my high knowledge workers? A lot of mundane tasks, very like simple tasks that they have to spend most of their time, download things, do an Excel, do that, do this, and so on. And I'm paying them thousands of euros every month. And they don't enjoy in the end. So think of this and now try to solve their problem. I don't mind if you end up with another solution as long as you improve your productivity or processes or well-being of your workforce. That's fine. With that, I'm going to end it here. So we are not talking about responsible AI, but feel free to catch me and ask questions. Thank you.